Hey, welcome to In Cat We Trust, and we are back with another episode of Kicking Back with Cat. And here I have another fantastic guest with me, Shiho. How are you today?
I'm very good. It's 11 a.m. here. We are having our Korean vacation called Solo, and I've been spending time with my friends in my house, just taking a break before the all this busy schedules again. But I'm very good. How are you?
I am well. It is nighttime out over here in New York.
Oh, you're in New
But
York.
yes, I'm in New York City. And so, can you, I guess, tell me a bit more as before we get into your promotion? Like, I did read that she was a fan of the Ruthless Aggression era of wrestling, and so can you tell me what was that for you? I guess seeing that wrestling for the first time, and kind of using that to build towards your own promotion.
Mhm. So I started watching wrestling when I was 12, and it was like before the ruthless aggression era. That was like the end of the attitude era, so it's like 2001. And then I saw like all these great wrestlers, Undertaker, Stone Cold. Like, so that was the time right after the Stone Cold made a heel turn after WrestleMania 17. And then I started watching wrestling since then with my grandmother. And so for me, like just the ordinary Korean kid, the pro wrestling was such a like shocking thing. Like all this gigantic, over the life, the characters like interacting, fighting, betraying, and all that kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And um, so I started like pro wrestling. Not only it affected my like what I love, but it also affected my career, my future, my personality. So because I love pro wrestling so much, it made me study English. And then like pro wrestling is like the paragon. It's like summary of the all American culture, right? Like not it's just the violin. It has like all this theme song. So basically, American pro wrestling it reflect their culture, what they hear, what they love, what kind of story what kind of sentiment they try to deliver. So it made me kind of slightly, even I'm Korean, it kind of westernized me. So since then, I started very familiar with English, and I became like only one pro wrestler who speak English to the native speaker level, which affects a lot of my promotion business. So I was just a fan until 2010, and then I started learning pro wrestling in the local backyard pro wrestling, and then I got more ambitious. So in 2015, I went to China, America, and Japan. I started getting more deeper into the business, but I was still indie wrestler, and then I still worried about my day to day paycheck. So I chose the my path to be a translator. So right now I'm a translator, speaking like between English and Korean, while I'm being a wrestler and helping out the promotion of PWS. Um, and I never thought this could be my biggest dream. And then we started Pro Wrestling Society (PWS) in 2018, and it has been 6 years. And for recent 5 years, we had to like face lots of difficulty, like coronavirus happening, and then small crowd, a very small market here. Despite the popularity of WWE here, the local wrestling nobody really know it exists. And then starting from 2024 to 2025, we suddenly made this huge, humble but kind of noticeable breakthrough, suddenly like selling out the 500 crowd seat like in 3 days, and now we're aiming to have a show with the 3,000 crowds. So everyone is very encouraged, and we are all passionate about it. So that's the summary of my story. So yes, it started from 2001.
No, I love that. I feel like when you mention like WWE is kind of over the top, and it is. It's definitely larger than life to aspects where it's like everything's kind of turned up. And so you mentioned as I guess for everybody with the coronavirus, and for us we had quarantine for a year or two,
Oh
where
yeah.
we kind of was like stuck to be like home and everything, and that was a transition for a lot of people. Just kind of it's different, from going outside and talking every day, and then you kind of get forced to be in your home and kind of sit and think of, okay, what am I going to do next while I'm home, or why I'm not doing this? And so would you say like working, I guess, going towards like wrestling, but doing it in a promotion where you're kind of in charge of like all the day to day stuff and social media and your roster. What are some of the harder aspects for you um, with, I guess, running your promotion?
First of all, before I answer that, do you prefer me to turn it like a horizontal or vertical?
It's fine, whatever way works for you. It's
Okay,
okay.
okay. I'll try to match with you. So there you go. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is better. All right. So the the most difficult part. So yes, like starting PWS in the 2018, the hardest part was of course like lack of wrestler, lack of roster. Like we only have like 20 to 30 pro wrestler in South Korea, and on like not many wrestlers are trained overseas, and then there are a few wrestlers who train from overseas, like who train more professionally and then try to deliver that knowledge here. Are there are very few about it. So that's the one hard part. But I'm very blessed and very lucky to have like 10 to 15 students here who are very young and who are very eager to learn, and they're very humble. Like they accept all of the teaching and then they follow it very well. So, and then another thing is from 2018 to 2024, the hardest part was not only me doing wrestling, I had to produce a show. I had to book the story or like helping out with editing videos or promoting the show or selling the tickets or like doing the finance and all the type of the small works here and there, making posters. At first I did everything. So I really couldn't sleep. I really couldn't focus as myself as a professional wrestler. I couldn't focus on my career at all because I was so busy training people, making posters, um, walking around the street, like putting the poster on the wall everywhere. So I did everything like at first time, but still many people helped me out a lot. But still, that was not enough. But in 2024, once we got it more established, um, the company investor made this small indie promotion into actual legit corporate. So now I'm a founder, but I'm not necessarily the CEO of the company. Now I just help out in many different aspects. But since it has become a corporate, now we have our own dedicated media team. We have our own producer who create the catchphrase, the character for each wrestler that could appeal to the public, not only to the wrestling fans. Um, so now the situation is way better. Now I only focus on training people and as myself as a wrestler and making connection worldwide and then spreading the. So now I became more like a the image ambassador like for the PWS. So yeah, the hardest thing was probably that I had to do everything. Um, and another hard thing was the lack of market. So we don't really have like a hardcore fan base. Like so, like there are people who love wrestling. Just like like the hardcore internet fan, like America. There's a lot, right? But in Korea, like let's say you bring one hot indie wrestler from America to South Korea, maybe highly likely you would only draw like 100 people. So not that many. That's why I'm very focusing on the public fans who never watched pro wrestling before in Korea, and I'm trying to appeal to them.
Nice. That's actually pretty interesting. I guess from the other end, from like indie wrestling from in the U.S., at least in the tri-state area where I'm at, it's like I feel like we have a core audience that like pro wrestling, like the diehard people, and then you have the ones who like, oh, you got this one person. Let me see what this show is about. That's actually how I started doing at least going to indie shows. Um, like I didn't even know we had the market in New York at first until like 2017. I was like, oh, this is here. I didn't know. And then I started going and kind of just being introduced to other indie wrestlers. And so, um, would you say as far as like what are like some ways you have found to be helpful to kind of appeal to hopefully bring in new eyes who might not be like a diehard fan? Like I feel like the one thing WWE do is they try to get the casual fan and hope to
Mhm.
keep the casual fan. And so, have you found methods that has been better than others is kind of opening the door for people to have more eyes on PWS.
So yes, I can tell you that, but it's our business secret. This has been become our biggest business secret right now. We try not to share too much about this formula because we with this formula we made a sudden big rise, right? Like we used to have a show with hundred of maybe like 100 people or 150 people, and we were happy if we draw 150 people, we were like, oh my God, we did well. This was big show. And we were just satisfied with that. But you cannot really get bigger when you get satisfied from there. So we kept thinking, like, I've been thinking for 6 years, like, what is the problem? Like, why we keep stagnated from like only like 100 crowds, and then, why our YouTube is not big. And my conclusion, and also I learned this from my teacher, Tajiri. Um, or any other whenever I talk to like former WWE guys or current WWE people, always I hear that don't think inside of the wrestling box. Don't be typical and try to think outside of the wrestling box. So one of the show that we made a big breakthrough in 2023, where we draw like 400 people. I actually made lots of collaboration with the Korean celebrities. Like we went to their podcast, we attacked some of the people, and we even like had a storyline where we're kidnapping the famous celebrity. And of course, like this like non-wrestling fan who are fan of the celebrity, they were like, who are these guys? Like, and is this real or not? Like we actually achieved that 80s, 90s kayfabe. Like the Korean people who are not exposed to pro wrestling, they actually believed like what is real, what is not. What happened was so we made a lots of that collaboration. Feature them. We even featured them in our match. Very WWE. And some of the wrestlers in Korea or some of the people, they were very skeptical about it, and they told me like, "Hey, Shiho, this is a wrestling show. This is not for celebrities. This is not for this comedians or something. And then you should focus on wrestling." And I told them like, well, what define pro wrestling? Featuring the celebrities and then appeal to the public and who never watched pro wrestling, like being casual, being entertaining. That's the pro wrestling. If you only think about pro wrestling as two warriors being in the ring, like it's a man's word, like yeah, we'll only feature the pain and the passion, the sweat and blood. If you only think about that, then that's not good pro wrestling, because that will only appeal to certain type of the fans. And if you're happy about it in front of the 100 crowds, then I don't want to do business with you. So like the actual pro wrestling is entertainment. It's a white canvas, right? You can draw anything. It can be goofy, as long as it works, as long as it appeals to the public, as long as it draws make money. Lucha Libre is pro wrestling, Japanese pro wrestling is pro wrestling, like WWE is pro wrestling. You have to do whatever it takes. So the biggest thing is thinking outside of the wrestling box. And um if you remember like WWE PG era, um when I saw one of the episode of the Raw where they invited the Muppet Show, like Sesame Street, interacting with the wrestlers. Yeah, for adult fans, that could be perceived as, oh, this is childish. They're thinking pro wrestling is a very like a childish kids show. But for me, when I watched it, yeah, that's genius, because that would draw so many new generation. And when that new generation grows up, then they become the diehard fan. So making cycle. So that's what we're doing right now. We um dropped our wrestling, like those like, this is a fight, this is serious type of the wrestling vibe. If there are people who couldn't accept that, we just don't work with them. So I had to make lots of big change since 2024. um I started doing rest. I changed all of my wrestling style. I did. I used to do lots of like move, lots of high flying, lots of bump, 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 and like those like kind of like 2.9 kick out, passionate wrestling. You know what I mean? And after I learned from Tajiri, I changed all of that style into more like character based, storytelling based, very traditional NWA and WWE pro wrestling. And after that, magically, suddenly our crowd number changed, our fan base changed. Only like 3 years ago, we had maybe about 50, 80s pro wrestling diehard audiences, only usually male adults. But now 80% of our audiences who goes like 500, 600 numbers, 80% of them are family, kids, or couple who never watched pro wrestling and also diehard fans. So we encompass everybody. So that's the key. Don't think inside the wrestling box. Like I cannot tell the specific way how, but everybody has their own way.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually really just a good advice in general. Just because I think of like Cindy Lauper in the '80s, or even now Logan Paul, who's in MMA, but he also has like YouTube and all that other stuff, and now he's wrestling in
Mhm.
WWE, and so I do think that's definitely a good way to get more people interested. You gotta, I do, even the kidnapping thing to me, I feel like I could have seen that on WWE or somebody getting kidnapped or taken somewhere, and it's like kind of
Yeah.
involving other people. So I think that's a really smart method that you use.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Tajiri taught you, and I actually was a huge fan of him growing up. What is some like without I guess giving too much away, but like what was some other advice that he may have given you that's something you kind of like hold dear, that it's like you kind of use it in every day, if you're on wrestling or even running your company.
Um, the biggest thing I learned from him is make make people believe that it's a real fight. So I mean, of course, many people says that too, but he taught me like more specific way how to enforce it. It's not about move, how you construct the match without depending on the moves. And then here's a way, and this is what you do. And at this point, you do this. At this point, you do this. Um, so he influenced me not only the wrestling style. He taught me the way of business, like how to actually make money. Um, when he and I had a match in 2023, it was like one of our biggest match with the at the time it was like 400 crowds, and there was like we and I actually at the time I wanted to include the famous celebrity Korean celebrity into that match, and then some wrestler actually they didn't like that. They told me, "Hey Shiho, this is a pro wrestling. Like you shouldn't give too much spotlight to the celebrities, like you know." And then so whenever I face that skepticism, and the one of the hardship is I'm young, I'm younger, and then I have a shorter, comparatively shorter wrestling experience than some people in Korea, and then it's hard to convince them. And sometimes whenever they, you know, like object to me in that kind of say, it's kind of hard for me. It was really hard for me to deal with that. And then when I was hearing that, Tajiri actually kicks in, and Tajiri told them, "No, she was right. This celebrity is important. And if he can make this company grow, you guys should feature him in a match, even he's not a pro wrestler. Like actually give him the most important role in this match." So he was very open about it, and he always tell me like, so we the PWS we try lots of goofy stuff, like which is not conventional. We actually focus a lot on our YouTube with our wrestlers. We make all this kind of like TikTok, YouTube Reels challenge, like all this like, um, and then sometimes some hardcore fans or some wrestlers don't like that. They think we're too childish, we're too colorful, and we're too different from like usual violent pro wrestling. But because like um, we're super PG, super family friendly, and when some people didn't like it and some people didn't want to follow my order, Tajiri actually stood up for me and say like, you guys got to follow him. He's right. What he does is right. That's my cat, by the way. And so and yeah, like so he taught me how to train people properly. Um, he taught me more system based way of training people, which helped a lot to build my own wrestling career. Um, how to make more believable match, and then all the inside, old tricks of pro wrestling where I've never thought. Like so, usually learning from him is not really learning how to do the Canadian Destroyer. It's really about philosophy. Learning wrestling from him is very magical. For example, he doesn't teach me like whole tons of moves. He like when you go to his class, he only wants to do lock up, headlock, and tackle, which is very classic drill in pro wrestling. But inside that one drill, he can teach like hundreds of the element, fundamental, which totally change you. And it's up to you if you accept that teaching or not. But now he's teaching in Kyushu Pro Wrestling in Japan. They're our collaboration promotion in Japan, and then so many foreign wrestlers they are actually going to Kyushu to learn from him. So through this podcast, I would like to recommend everybody if you have a chance to learn from him. He's great.
I love that. I like that whole like it's different but simple. It's not like too complicated, and I definitely do agree sometimes. Well, in American wrestling too, it's sometimes older people don't necessarily want to change things, and
Yeah.
so I've seen that just kind of working behind the scenes of things, and so I definitely understand that aspect. What I know you have you said you have a show in May of 2025. Do you normally do multiple shows in a year, or you kind of focus on like one show to make sure you have a really great show and then piggyback off of that to go forward?
So we do about 2 3 times a show a month. Um, the show one is we call it main show. It's like it's our pay per view in the capital city Seoul, where we draw about 500 to 600 crowds. And then we do this a house show called Next Step. So Next Step is like NXT version, like Korean version of NXT, and then we only feature like the new wrestlers, so they can have experience and then they can work their basic stuff. So that we do that in our dojo, where we draw about 200 crowds. We can draw 200 crowd from that house show. We do the 500 from the main show, and then we also do the bar show. So we can appeal to the adult fans in the Itaewon. Like Itaewon is like a very international district, multiracial district, where all the parties going on in Seoul. And yeah, like that one, it's without the ring. We just brawl in the bar, which is lots of fun. Um, okay, my cat came to interview me, but that's what's going on. You son of a. Okay, all right. It's not helping. I told him not to interfere in my interview, but he's doing it.
So you have and I think that's nice that you have for the next step show that's like your NXT.
Mhm.
What are I guess what are some I guess aspects that are a bit different because I feel like you would have to do things a little differently with your kind of training people to kind of get to that next level, but then have your main people, your main wrestlers. And so, what are some like aspects you look at when you're trying to get these wrestlers and next step ready for the bigger stage in your promotion?
We teach them the business mindset first. Like I mean, you can teach the skill, you can teach the moves, but if that person's mindset is not professional, then we cannot work with that person. Like all the respect that you need to learn from the business. For example, uh, don't act like you know everything during the training, or during the training, if you fail, don't act like you're angry, because we don't want you to be angry because you failed during the training. You cannot do some training, you cannot do some moves and in front of the trainer, if you act like you're frustrated, then you're wasting my energy, you're wasting my time, so don't do that. That's one thing. Or um any other, same with any other promotions in any other world. There are some wrestlers who say like, "Oh, I don't want to lose to this guy, so I don't want to win this to this guy." I'm like, come on, we don't have any market, so why you want to talk about it? We're not superstars, so don't think about that. um and so it's a little bit different from the other indie pro wrestling. So we, like, for example, our videos, whenever we feature our guys to our match videos, our YouTube view goes from 50,000 to like 100, like 600,000 views. So for indie wrestling, we have a pretty solid YouTube. Our match video that doesn't include like international superstar, that goes like to maximum like 600,000. And then we give them lots of exposure here and there, and we also pay them good. So we have our producer, like his name is Mr. Park, or we call him Toe Teacher. And he's very famous, the comedy writer in South Korea. Um, and he's also he's also producer of the YouTube with the 2 million subscribers. And he's one of our team. And then him and I actually produce the characters. So our wrestlers, including me, we don't make characters that is like our own fan fiction, if that makes sense. So we don't encourage our wrestlers to make a character that is for their own fantasy. We always teach them, hey, don't make yourself look like a badass. When you're not actually badass, don't try to like fake yourself that you're a badass. We actually always try to teach them, make a character not based on your desire, make a character that could work to the crowd. So many wrestlers, they always try to be edgy, they always try to be cool, like I'm the best wrestler, like they try to make a character based on the wrestler they look up to when they were kids. Or everybody want to be a Will Ospreay, everybody want to be a Kenny Omega, everybody want to be a I don't know, like everybody want to follow the trend of some famous wrestlers. And you're not them, you have to be original. um so that's, yeah. I forgot what the example. I forgot what was the question. I kind of flew up.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I like that analogy of trying to be different. I feel like that's kind of my favorite wrestlers is always something I'm like, okay, this is different. Like I was a Shawn Michaels girl. He was the person that introduced me to wrestling, and so for me, he was over the top. He was extra, and I was
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
this is great. When you're a little kid, you're like, this is amazing. Like this is awesome. And I do think that if you can find a character that works, you'll get that one fan who might not have been was kind of iffy or is not sure, and then you kind of probably get them to do what I did, where I got very obsessive about wrestling. At one point, it was bad. I was like, I had to watch everything this person was on. I had to
Hmm.
get everything, and so I definitely like that analogy. Do you have any like people that you would want to come to your promotion? Like, even I know you said you don't have too many like international. You see differences in that, and I understand that. But is there anybody that you think that if you could get that person, it would be good for your promotion?
I mean, we had many international, big name came to Korea. Actually, we had a Joey Janela, we had a Gail Kim, Tajiri coming here pretty often. Um, and who else we had? Like we had a Zeta Zhang. We have like some legend from Japan, Nagayo Chigusa. Many actually people worked here, like with Ziki Dice and the K-Jax and the Jordan Oasis, who is a now WWE ID prospect. So yeah, many people were interested. Like we also had a Scum Dog. Um, Ricardo Rodriguez is my good friend, and then he always tried to send his guide. And so but the people who never came here, I don't know, like Suzuki Minoru would be great. I always try to bring someone who were popular in the 2001, like, so who are still memorable by like 20 to 40 years, the fan bases. Like, I don't know, like, really ideally the Kane, Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, that would be so great. But I know it's hard. There are so many. Maybe Kane, like my biggest fan. I was a huge fan of Kane, Rey Mysterio. When I brought Tajiri to South Korea, like, and especially when I had a match with him, that was something. Like, I never, because he was my, like, a dream. He was my idol. He was so great in the ring. So when I actually met him in the ring, I was actually overwhelmed by his aura. Like, that's why he tried to taught me. Like, everybody think this is a fake fight. Everybody think this is a script, but you have no idea when you are immersed in the ring, especially when you face a legend like him, who can be so real. So he can even fool his opponent in the ring, making me believe I'm in a real fight. So, yeah, there are too many, but I would say Kane. Like, even he retired, that's fine. I want him to come here and choke me hard and choke slam me into the table. Yeah, that would be my big fan moment.
Well, fingers crossed, that can happen one day. I hope that'd be great. I feel like Kane was definitely of the two. I think I liked him more because he didn't say much, but he just did
Mhm.
things, and I was okay with that. So my last question for you is, what do you want the American audience to know about your promotion and your goals for 2025?
I'm sure there are still some American fan base who already know me, and then, but to make it short, so there was pro wrestling was very popular in Korea from like 1960 to the 1990s. You will be surprised how big it was. It was almost as big as Japan, Mexico, America, Korea. Just like a friend. Korea was like number four, number five big market back then, but it's like a lost history. After that, it just went downward spiral so hard. The generation now, nobody remembers pro wrestling in Korea. So that's something. That's the first context, and then so there was no Korean wrestling. Like, it was really small. Like, even there was a promotions, there was really small. And then we made a PWS Pro Wrestling Society in 2018. And guys, we went through so much hardship in this small market. And in 2024, starting that, we made this small magic in this land of wasteland of Korean pro wrestling. And uh, please check out YouTube. Go to Pro Wrestling Society. You will be surprised about our work, our marketing direction, and you will be surprised. Like, go to the Instagram, PWS Korea, and I like it was my dream. I wrestled for 13 years. I really wanted to see the revival of Korean pro wrestling. And now, when I started drawing 500 people in 3 days, sold out show, I'm like, holy shit, this is it. I finally started seeing the hope. I got every great wrestler. I have a great producing team, media team, marketing team. We made all this condition go. So we thought of, hey, let's do 3,000 show. Let's make it happen. I know it's hard to achieve, but let's fucking do it. And for that, I want you guys to support our dream. I want you guys to share this word. This is magical. Not many promotion can achieve 3,000 audiences. And you do that, and this small indie promotion in Korea do that. And I want you guys to be the part of it. You guys don't need to, like, you can. I know it's hard to come to Korea, but at least spread the word. You know, I want this. I want our Project 3000. I want to call it Korean All In. And then when AEW made that All In, the all these hardcore fans, they did the big parts. And I want you guys to spread this word to all the like famous wrestling in the world. Like I want the Cody Rhodes to know it. I want WWE to know it. I want like I don't know, like I want Joe Hendry to know this. I want John Cena to hear about this story, this little miracle in Korea. And that's my humble dream. I don't want to be um I want to be successful in wrestling. I wouldn't lie if I don't. But I really want to see the smile of all these hard workers in Korea, and I want to show them this 3,000 crowds. And I think we deserve it. We work really hard. So that will be it. Go to YouTube, search Pro Wrestling Society Korea.
Awesome. I love that. That's so good. I will have all the links to the YouTube. I did check out
Mhm,
some of the matches, and they're good. So I think you guys should definitely go to PWS on YouTube. I have the links in the description. Give them a follow, give them a subscription. Also go to Twitter and Instagram because
mhm.
we are on
Yeah,
social media, guys. So definitely go and give everybody a follow just to be supportive. Because I think what you're doing is super amazing. And as a huge wrestling fan of just growing up in it and being able now to kind of work in it in an aspect, that it's always nice to see other people who are also fans doing or making it towards their dream for whatever it is that they want to do. And so thank you so much, for coming on and
I
chatting with
I
me.
appreciate
It
it.
was very
Yeah, it was
fun.
glad. I was very happy. It's been a while that I did the international interview in the international podcast. So thank you for having me. Please spread this word. Like I expect you. I want you to make amazing highlight video of this interview. Please spread it. I want
I
more
definitely
interview. Like, please, I want more interview to the next podcaster, more podcaster, and let's have this as a start.
Yes, I have a few people that I think I can probably send your way to also share about it as well. But thank you so much. This was truly a pleasure to talk about this.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. I
All
hope
right,
we
guys.
can meet someday in New York.
Yes, fingers crossed. That'd be great.
Okay. All right. It was great. I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.